So there you have "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus" with a little bit of "Through It All" added in there as a nice little medley. I never used to play those two songs together until I heard a friend of mine sing "Through It All" at a friend's funeral. And once I heard him sing the chorus of that song, these two songs were just married in my mind, and I had to put them together. The message tied together so nice, they have the same sound, and it made a nice medley. So that's where I got that idea from. Let's go ahead and learn this. It's in standard tuning. Let me give you a bottom E so we can get close together here. Okay. The song starts out with a C add 9 chord. If you're not familiar with the C add 9, just take that fourth finger, plant it on 3rd fret 2nd string, you get this beautiful C add 9 chord. I love that chord. I play it whenever I can. Most of the time it sounds good, and I certainly use it a lot in this arrangement. So the tablature at the bottom of the screen, if you're not familiar with tablature, go online. There's a ton of stuff to learn from. It's not hard, and it just makes guitar learning pretty easy. I'm thinking about doing a tablature tutorial. If I do, I'll have a link at the bottom of this. First measure, as you see, I'm holding this C add 9 chord all the way through the intro. I'll play it nice and slow. Hit those two notes together. Second measure. Third measure. Now there's two things I want to point out here real quick. On the third measure you see a squiggly little line next to that 3 and 0. That's called a roll. That indicates where I personally do a roll. Instead of pinching those two notes together, not bad, I kind of separate them a little bit, just briefly, like a roll. You'll see that squiggly line quite a bit throughout this arrangement. It just means I roll into that chord. I spread that sound out a little bit. If you're not familiar with it, just take the time to learn how to roll into a chord. Maybe start out nice and slow. Kind of like an arpeggio, sped up. I had to practice that a bit when I was first learning. But you'll get it pretty quick. I do it without even thinking now, and I use it quite a bit throughout this whole arrangement. It's called a roll, and I suggest that if you don't do that, spend a little time with it. It really adds a nice little touch. Another thing, on that fourth measure in, there's a sign, a little RIT ... That comes from the word retard. Musically, it means slow down. You'll see that frequently through this lesson as well. It just means you're slowing down the pace, smoothing it out towards the end of that measure. Okay, so the verse of the song starts out on that 5th measure. I'm still holding down that C add 9 chord, but I'm also, while I'm pressing down the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, I still have that index finger holding that 1st fret of that same string down. They're both holding that same string down because I lift off that pinky quite a bit, and this index finger is already there, and that's used quite a bit throughout this arrangement. Verse 1, I'll just play it. Verse 1, 5th measure. I'll play it real slow and talk about what's going on. This is where you pick up the pinky. Then you pick up the index finger. Now what's nice about that is that open B string can be ringing out. The sound does not stop as you pick up that chord and move to the next chord. So it's like this. Now this first measure at the bottom of your screen there is an F chord. And I play it a little different because I want these top strings to be ringing out, but I still need this F in the bass, as it were a bar chord. But you notice when you pick up a bar chord, the sound stops. I want those top strings ringing out as much as possible. So the way I play this first measure is you take like a basic F chord, not barred at the top. Top E string is open, and then you just wrap your thumb around the top of the neck and press that first fret, 6th string. And you'll see that on the tablature with that little T underneath that one. That means thumb. Thumb is reached around. And it goes like this. The measure goes like this. To a C. Keep the C held down into measure 2. Halfway into measure 2, I am adding the pinky to the G while lifting off the ring finger, and that makes an A minor 7th chord. Only you got the G at the top. That is the melody line. Another beautiful open string ringing out as you switch chords. This is a G. It's got that ring finger, pinky on the 3rd fret. Little hammer there. That's why we always have both those at the same time. Okay. 5th measure, back to C add 9, to C, pick up the index, back to this thumb wrap F chord, I call it, and there's a beautiful illustration of why I don't bar it. I want that ringing out through that whole thing while still holding down this bottom F on the 6th string. It just rings out. And by the way, that is the only variations I make in this whole song. There's 3 different ways I play this F chord down here, or the way I execute it. I finger it the same way, but sometimes I'll do this. Sometimes I'll do this. And maybe something like this. And to be honest, I really don't know which way I'm going to play that until I come up to it. Now in the tablature I have already set it out, and I have it tabbed out all those different ways throughout this arrangement so that you can experiment with different ways to play it. So let's go down to that first measure again. Oops, excuse me. Second measure, back to regular C. Add the pinky. Keep the pinky. Now that measure might need a little explanation as well. I use that phrasing quite a bit in this arrangement too. Starts out with a C, halfway into the measure, I go into an F. So the first part is the C add 9. It starts with C, turns into a C add 9. Now while that top E is ringing out, I drop these 2 fingers down a couple strings, respectively, to an F. Then I lift up the middle finger to an open string, and then I just play that ring finger that's already there. Back to this that's always planted. So it goes like this, real slow. C. Change. Pick up the middle finger. Hit the pinky again. Practice that move. It happens a lot in this arrangement. Smoothly, it goes like this. Measure 3. Bass note G. A lot of open strings there. Then back to the C add 9 with that introduction sound. Now the chorus starts out with a C chord. First measure at the bottom of your screen. Plant the pinky, top G. Then we lift off the ring finger, which makes this an A minor 7th. Only we have that G up there, real slow. Beautiful sound ringing out while you switch chords down to a G. Back to that A minor 7th. Plant the pinky. This time, the ring finger comes down and hits that G bass note. Back to the G at the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to repeat all 5 of those measures again. I'm just going to go through it fairly slow. A minor 7th. The next measure at the bottom of your screen is back to that C add 9. To a C. Okay. Just follow the tab. Now here's the only place in the song that I do a complete bar chord. It's because I need these top 2 strings, these top 2 notes. It's part of the melody line, and I need that, so I just go ahead and do the whole bar chord. It's an F bar chord. To a C, the last chord on there is back to a C, so it goes like this. At the sacrifice of losing all those ringing out strings, we do this bar chord. Take that same C chord into measure 3, add the pinky. Here's where we do that little F chord in the middle of it, of that measure. C, G, back to that intro sound. Okay, so at this point I repeat the verse and chorus again. I really have made no changes. I just repeat the whole thing. I haven't really changed it. What I do when I play the song, the only variation I make is when I do the repeat, I just change the dynamics of it a little bit. I think the first time I play through nice and soft, second time through the verse and chorus again, I may play it a little louder just so it makes it interesting to the listener, to yourself. Have some variations so you're just not repeating the same thing over and over. Change it around, and sometimes it's playing it the exact same way, only you just play it a little softer or a little louder. So what I'm going to do, we've already gone through the verse and the chorus. I'm going to go ahead and just play through this until there's a change, and then we'll talk about that change. So verse 2. Now we're getting into the second repeat of the chorus. Watch the changing of this bass note through this. Now I'm stopping here because this is where I make a variation with the song. Normally, on the first time through, this is where we played that bar F. And I want to make a point here. You can do that again, because the way I do, I make a little variation you may not like, may not want to do. So at this point, just do this again. What I do here, it's the fifth measure on the bottom of your screen there. I do this. And how that sounds leading up to it is instead of. Okay, now what I'm doing there is I'm taking basically a D shape, moving it up to the 5th fret. That is an F. But I lift up the middle finger. Isn't that pretty? So I do this, not hitting that top string yet. Then hit the top string, top E. Now while that top E is ringing out, I reach down at the 7th fret, 3rd string, right here. Do a harmonic. Harmonics just ring out, still ringing. If you're not familiar with harmonics, there's a lot online about it. You can learn. But essentially what you're doing is you're just barely touching whatever string right over top that metal bar, that metal fret bar. And you're just touching that string. You're not pressing down. In fact, when you touch the string should not even move. You don't even have enough pressure on that string to move it. You just lightly place your finger on that string and then pluck it. It can go anywhere. See how it's a D? But what we're doing for this song, 7th fret, 3rd string, it's your G string. So it's like this, real slow. Oops. Here we go. Okay. Open string. Harmonic. Hit that C. And then plant the rest of that F chord. It just makes a really nice ringing out section. That's measure 5. Like I said, you can just do this, which sounds good too. Then, first measure at the bottom of your screen goes back to the C. That's the measure we use a lot in this song, that little transition from C to F. C, G, and then we go to what I call a transition into the song Through It All. Essentially, it's the same as the intro. There again, at the top of the measure, you see writ. That means slow down, because the song Through It All is played a little softer. You want to kind of lead into that playing softly. 5th measure, slow down. Now this is where we lead into Through It All. We start playing here. It's a C add 9 chord. Just watch real slow. So the first 2 measures are C add 9 chord. The melody of the song goes like this. The reason I point that out is there's a lot of stuff underneath that melody. It's kind of like fingerstyle guitar. You play the melody with the accompaniment too. So what you got to do to make that melody line stand out is you got to somehow play that part of it a little louder over top of the background, which is played a little softer. I'm still learning that. I've got a long way to go, but I wanted to bring it up because that's how these really good guitar players just sound like 2 guitars going on. Somehow they're able to bring the melody line nice and bright, and their background picking is a little lighter, and it takes practice, but you got to think about it and know about it first. So first 2 measures, I'll play it again. Then it goes to a D minor. The next 2 measures, that D minor is held down the whole time. Oops, excuse me. Few little changes, however. Let's go back to the 3rd measure in D minor. This is where you do a pull off from the 1st fret to the open string, back to the D note you're holding down. It goes like this. Just drop to a C. Let me just back up and play those last 2 measures smoother this time. Then you switch to the C with an open string. First measure at the bottom of your screen is this G. So what's happening there basically is not a whole lot of difficulty. Hit these 2 together, bass, add the index finger, real smooth it goes. then you just keep that chord, keep your index finger planted right there as you add the pinky to the second measure, because you'll need it right here. So let's go back to that first measure. Those open strings on that second measure, they just fill in between what would be the vocals, and it should be played softer. Let me just do it so you can hear that. Then it goes back again to that C add 9, first measure, bottom of your screen. D minor with a pull-off. Back to the G. Pinky to the 3rd fret. Let me repeat that measure. C. Open. Back to a C with the added pink. E. That writ again, slow down. Let me just repeat those last 5 measures there. Actually, the 4 measures. We've dropped down in the tab to 4 measures per stretch. Here we go. And the song ends with a real quick hint of "'Tis So Sweet" again, just like we played before. Measure 3. Now here I threw in a little hammer on there. Usually do that. This time I did, because sometimes when I play this song I'll do that hammer on without thinking about it, but it adds a nice little touch, a little variation, so I put that in the tab. Last measure with the writ, slow down. Last measure goes like this again. Now there's 3 different options that I do with this song. I like them all, so I put them all in here in the tablature for this lesson. Measure 1, you just do this. And then strum that C add 9. That squiggly line with the arrowhead next to the chord just means that's a strum. And the way I do a strum is I just take the index finger on the back of the nail and I just get the right chord. Because you know why? Here, my finger is already there, poised, ready to go. Okay? Your fingers are already there. You can do it with middle finger. I just find it easy, instead of a thumb strum, you just use the back of your nail. So back up just a measure so you can hear that first optional ending, which is strumming is the C add 9 chord. Or you can take, instead of a C add 9, drop the pinky down to the top G and do it like this. Okay, so the first one is second option with number 2 there. Both of those are real nice. Now the third option is a nice little cascading of notes that just ring out really pretty. And to be honest, I use this, borrowing it from a really great guitar player named Mark Hansen. Look him up online, Mark Hansen. I will put a link to his site at the bottom of this video. He has tons of great fingerstyle guitar lessons from beginner through advanced. He has songbooks. He does beautiful Christmas music. This song, this section here, this ending that I chose, actually came from a song of his called Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, and it was the introduction of the song. I learned the intro, and that was about as far as I got, because it was kind of a advanced piece, and I didn't stick with it. I abandoned it pretty quickly, but I did keep this ending. Let me just play it so you hear how it sounds, and then we will talk about it. Just backing up, leading up to it. So what this is it's a series of pull-offs, and I'm sorry, there's just one pull-off. The idea here is to let these notes ring out as much and long as possible into the next note. So it starts off with the 8th fret pull-off to the 5. Now while that 5th fret first string is ringing out, take your middle finger, plant it on the 6th fret of the 2nd string. So it goes like this. While that's still ringing. So now you got those two ringing out. And while those two are ringing out, then you lift up your index finger off that first string. So now you have this ringing out. Isn't that pretty? Then, while those two are ringing out, take your ring finger and plant it on the 7th fret of the 3rd string. Okay? And then you hit the open 2nd string. Okay? Like this. Stop noise. Lift it up. All those ringing out. Now while that open B is ringing out, you can pick up your whole hand, because that's ringing out. Do the 3rd string, 5th fret with the index, 7th string, 7th fret, 4th string. So you got those 3 ringing out. Those are the last 3 notes of that measure. Okay, real slow. Then you pick up your index finger. While that note is ringing out, drop down with your ring finger. Play 3rd fret, 4th string. Drop down to the 2nd fret while playing the open G string. Then 2 open strings together. You got your 2nd string, 4th string played together. then the ending. And then that strum with the back of the nail. So I talked a lot through there. Let me just play it really slow.